IPE WU Careers. You want to learn about jobs that combine politics and economics? Well, you're at the right place. Our students have collected questions for people with interesting jobs that combine politics and economics. Here are their answers to our questions.
This is Valerie. Valerie-Sophie Schönberg is the owner of Schönberg Consulting. Schönberg Consulting specializes in sustainable business development, helping organizations design impactful, long-term strategies that integrate ecological, social, and economic sustainability into their operations. Alongside managing her consultancy, Valerie serves as a member of the board of the Circular Economy Forum Austria and as the director of sustainable transformation processes. In these roles, she helps businesses and regions transition to circular economy models, driving innovations and sustainability in their practices. Valerie is an alumni of WU, where her master's thesis explored circular economy competencies among entrepreneurs. Hello, Valerie. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Would be interested to hear. Did you always know what you wanted to do in the future?
I think even standing here now, it would be a big lie to be saying that I know what I want to do in the future. I think the most important thing that you can do is to figure out what you like to be doing right now, what you enjoy, maybe also what you get positive feedback for, and then see how you can fit this into a world where you need to actually earn money with this. So just figure out the next step on the go, and still that I'm standing here, I just know what I'm going to be doing this year, maybe next year, and then let's see what the future holds.
Capitalism Eater 2024 would like to know, how did your early career choices shape where you are today?
I think what really helped is that the first choices were no actual choices, but just student jobs coming along my way, things being offered. There's this nice word of serendipity. So it's about keeping your eyes open and seeing what people bring into a conversation, listening in on other people who are talking about something you're curious about, something you're interested in, and then just giving it a try, even if you're not feeling ready yet. And to me personally, my first jobs were just about earning money as a student next to studying. And they brought me so many learnings, from selling newspapers to revising blog articles about traveling. Anything that I did back then did help me in project management, understanding the world, and just being quick and grasping new topics fast.
Tom Turbo wants to find out, what motivated you to start your own business?
I think it's always been at the back of my head that it's important to understand the tools to bring new ideas into life within the business area. So already during my bachelor studies, I was participating in some incubation, startup programs, learning all the tools that you could require for that, but then put it away for a while during my studies and working. Until the right moment just happened, this so-called window of opportunity, where I felt like I have the skills and an idea of what I would be liking to do, but couldn't already find it out there in the world, and ended up doing it myself. Having the tools by hand really helped for that. And it was, in hindsight, it was a courageous step, but it has well paid off, and I can highly recommend it to anyone who's feeling like wanting to try out something when they're young, rather than when they're older and dependent on maybe having a stable income. Try it out early. If you fail fast, and you can still go back being an employee somewhere else.
Poops wants to learn, how did you find this job after graduating from WU?
So while I was doing my master's degree, I was already working full-time in the job that I thought back then would be the perfect fit for me. It was in the area of consulting for innovation in the public sector. But then COVID happened. And all of a sudden, there was more than full-time working. There was more like 60, 70 hours a week while writing a master's thesis and taking courses. And I realized if I would stay within that exact context, I might just have a burnout in 2 years. And what's all the money and all the work good for if you don't take care of yourself? I had to ask myself the important questions. What do I want to spend my time on? What do I like doing? And I was looking through some kind of career portals and positions. I couldn't find anything that would have everything that I like doing in my everyday job or work. And it was COVID again. So everyone was sitting back at home. People were maybe even wasting time. There was home office. People who went to study and take courses had to wait until the next in-person class would come up. So I thought, why not just give it a try and create that perfect position that I was looking for on my own and give it a try. Well, after 4 years, I can say it did work out. So it makes a lot of sense to just trust in your abilities. And if what you require from a job is not out there, create it yourself.
Quadratwirtschaft wants to ask, how do you think studying politics and economics has helped in your career?
Studying economics and politics means you understand the bigger systems within which we're operating, right? So I do deeply believe that we as a society are embedded into the biological world, and we deeply depend on that. And then the economy is part of our society. It's basically embedded into what we do, and it's deeply influenced how we as society want it to be and need it to be in order to provide us with a good life, and the other way around. There was this time of thinking that business, or it is probably still a paradigm in a lot of areas, that business and the economy is what drives us as a society. I believe it's the other way around, but still it's very important to understand the dynamics of it, right? And understanding the dynamics of both of these things is super important to understand the leverages and where we can actually find points for impact, points for change that are having a lasting positive impact on us as society. And that is also most of the mechanism, most of the theories I took away from studying are the ones that I can still implement in my job today, by also making other people understand why things work in a specific way and how to actually go about for changing them.
Joe Biden loves ice cream would like to know, what motivated you to pursue a career in consulting?
Well, first, I do believe that when you're young, there's only so many opportunities you get in order to actually make an impact. When you do directly go into a bigger company, an enterprise that has long established hierarchical structures, it's really tough to wait long enough until you're at a point where you can actually manage things, right? Being in consulting, that happens much faster because you're going to be working on eye level with other managers and people who have a bigger area of control, a bigger circle of influence. So that's one of the things that I wasn't willing to wait for that things, right? The second one is it's one of the professions where you're being rewarded for being curious, for being ambitious, for wanting to drive things and working hard. And that was really important for me as well. And the third part is that I do believe there's certain number of professions where you can actually accompany people in achieving something themselves and putting things into practice. And consulting is one of them. And I really like to be in the back and pulling the right strings, helping people to get to where they want to be, or even understand where they would like to be, right? So those are the three things I think that attracted me to consulting. It's also the things that I still enjoy in everyday life working in that field. But I do think that these adjectives, these characteristics are also applicable in many other fields as well.
D-Wagon would be interested to hear, what do you enjoy most about your job?
I get to learn and to teach every day, right? So I have to stay very open-minded in order to quickly grasp the topics that are being brought to me. And a lot of times they're completely new. And I love learning. So that part. But it's also that I get to teach, right? I do get to talk to women leaders who would like to make a change and don't really know where to start or how to organize themselves. I get to maybe talk to a CEO who comes to me and tells me, hey, I want to make a sustainable change in our business model. And they're going to be open from one conversation to the next one more and more. And I might find out that it's their son who is in Fridays for Future, ramming the doors at home because the dad is in banking and doing all the bad things with the world. And I get to be the one that they turn to and talk about actually making changes, coming up with good strategies and transformation plans, and then putting that into practice.
No One Sweet Caroline singer is wondering, what's the most challenging part of your job?
Well, there's this saying, no man is an island, no woman is an island either. So we all need people to work with. And I think one really challenging thing is to find the right people to work with, that have your back, that you inspire each other and are a good team with. I think that's a really hard part. And you also need those people to have an impact together. And another thing that's I think that's challenging is that when you do love your job and you think it's important, that there's never really a turning off from it, right? So I'm going to be interested in what happens to that project, or what's happening in the news regarding that specific strategy that I've been working on as well. And I'm just always going to be wanting to hear what's going on. So what's challenging is also to take care of yourself.
Funny Joker would like to know, what are your typical working hours?
Thank you, Funny Joker. That's a lovely question. I don't think there's typical working hours. When you're self-employed and working in consulting and working for something meaningful, all three of them never come with typical working hours.
Pups wants to ask, how do you balance work, family, friends, personal time, and other commitments?
When I first started out, I thought that there's this thing of a balance. This is work, this is life, and you're supposed to separate those because that's what a healthy person does. But I've been realizing in the past 2 to 3 years that actually it's just about making the right amount of time for everything that I care about and regularly evaluating if that is still happening. Whether that may be meeting up with friends and having deep, meaningful conversations, whether that might be a coffee with a former colleague, doing sports and so on. Just do these regular check-ins, and then you know what to reduce and what to increase. And if for a few weeks it's really just work, that's fine, as long as you got this check and balances in place. And then might just go back to 2 weeks of traveling, meeting friends, and just working on the side. Everything's fine as long as it works for yourself. And I think I found this level. Most of the time, there's tougher days, and then there's better days.
BWL Justus is curious, how much do you earn?
Enough to live on it, and enough to keep doing this.
Student would be interested to hear, what skills did you gain at university that are useful in your job today?
Understanding complex issues very fast. I think this comes with any kind of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary study program, that you have to be able to take on different perspectives onto one single topic. And that's also what's being required in everyday work life. Doing group works. I know this, every professor tells you group works are important because they prepare you for. Yes, they do. And putting so much information in my head and having to contextualize it was really important, because right now I do not depend on ChatGPT telling me this is right or wrong, and I'm just going to be Googling something that I might remember from back then, but I still understand the bigger concept and the bigger context of it, and it's something that I put to practice every day.
Hoban is wondering, for your role, would studying international political economy have been beneficial? And if so, why?
Yes. These days I'm also working quite a lot with the public sector. So an example from recent weeks and months, in the coalition talks in Austria, we were asked as a Circular Economy Forum to provide recommendations in order to implement the circular economy in Austria, for example, but also working with cities and regions in Austria to help them on a transformation towards a circular economy. It really helps to understand how the system works, who are the actors, or what are important topics and issues to be paying attention to, how to formulate things in order to make people from different fields within the economy, within business, within politics, understand in a way that they can then implement it.
Reform is wondering, how do you handle working with businesses in the fossil fuel industry or those focused solely on profit maximization, especially when their goals conflict with sustainability?
I think the name of where the question is coming from with reform points towards an important reflection that I've made for myself. I think there's 2 ways of making a change. One is working outside of the current system and trying to build a new one, a better one. It's, for example, what the Beyond Growth, Degrowth community would be doing. But then you also have people who are going to be working within the existing system. There's this nice exchange view of like the current system being taken to the grave at some point and being allowed to switch and be part of this new system that's coming up, right? And for me, this new system is definitely one that integrates social, ecological, and economic perspectives and values into it. And I personally do feel better being part of the current system, as in helping that system actually change from within and reform itself. When it comes to single cases, I very much pay attention to whether the person I'm going to be working with has the will and also the means to actually make a change. And then I evaluate case by case whether this is something that will just drown my energy, or whether I can see that there's some fruitful ground where some new plants can be growing together. And that's when I would dive in. And in German we say, steter Tropfen hüllt den Stein. So when you always keep doing one thing, at some point you might just be successful in making a change. And that's how I approach things.
Bernie Hard wants to learn, how do you encourage businesses and individuals to prioritize climate change?
Well, the first step is probably making them understand that sustainability isn't just climate change. It's so many things that are deeply involved and integrated and codependent on each other, so that you actually have to see the bigger picture first in order to take the right measures to actually achieve something that's sustainable within the area of business. The second step, I would say, is to inspire, to set high goals and standards that we would like to achieve together, having some kind of narrative, some storytelling that people have in their minds and for which it's worth it to use all their strength and energy to actually move towards that. Third, what really has helped me in the past is regulations. It sounds bad, but actually having set all these standards in the European Union, the SDGs, the Green Deal, but then also Austrian legislation took place, helps me tell people now you have to do something. So even if this doesn't inspire you, you have to do a minimum. And if you just always do the minimum and follow the minimum steps, you'll always be behind. So that brings usually people back to the second step, which makes them inspired and want to achieve more. And then it's just about breaking this down into an actual path that they can follow without feeling disheartened because it's so hard to follow it, right? So it's about implementing it in everyday life, in processes, in structures, in projects, and then making them go walk the talk.
Valerie, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Want more information? Visit the Institute for International Political Economy. You will find podcasts analyzing current events, TikTok videos defining key concepts, and courses explaining the world.